Today is Saturday. Now I know that I had said that the lumber store was closed Saturday. Well, I went to a different lumber store.
Well, I know some of you have already seen this beginning. I'd used it at the start of the fire at Tower Hill, but it's a pretty good beginning, so I'm going to use it at the start of the clock mantle part 2. I'm back in my drawing program again, and here you can see I've drawn out what I believe will be the mantle. And I don't want to have any straight lines except where it's touching the wall. I want it to be sort of curved and rounded, and so it'll sort of contrast with the clock itself. And yet the wood is going to be stained exactly the same, so, it'll sort of all match. Anyway, I've got it drawn out here, and this is the top, and the clock would sit on the top like this. And here's another way of looking at it. Sort of makes a little bit more sense.
So what I've done here to make it a little bit easier for myself is I've printed those pieces out to scale. And that way I can lay them on my oak board here, and I'll probably make less mistakes. And speaking of mistakes, I don't know if any of you noticed this or not, probably some of you did. Remember I said this was my last piece of oak? This is mahogany. I'm surprised some of you guys didn't send me a comment saying, clean your glasses, Ron. Well, I'm all set up here ready to start cutting my pieces. But before I do, and I know I mentioned this in the previous video, but there's a knothole here, and there's wormholes here. You can see the wormholes. So the last foot here, it's practically useless. And when I was at Windsor Plywood, the guy wouldn't cut the last foot off. I asked him, well, why don't you just cut the last foot off and charge me for the 7 good feet? And he says, no, I can't do that. I can only cut it off if it's 4 feet or more. So, this is probably why I'm going to go and do the rest of my lumber shopping at Woodland Supply. Anyway.
It's going to become really obvious what I'm doing here.
Now I guess if I'm smart, I better make sure this is going to fit. Oh yeah, that's going to be just fine. Now the base itself is probably about 8 inches wide, and these pieces of lumber are only 5.5. So, needless to say, I've got to cut a piece that's going to fit here. This is almost just right, except it's way too short. Now I just got to make sure I avoid this knothole and these wormholes. No, I think this way is better. Well, it's not a perfect match, but I think once it's stained, it'll be fine. Well, if you remember, I was saying this is already the exact width that I need. May as well take advantage of that, I guess. Now that's going to join together really, really well. You'll hardly even be able to see the line. Well, like I've said before, we'll see how it looks in the morning. Okay, it's morning. As you can see, I had to rip off that paper template. I made a new one. And I'm going to try and get this glue line off of here before this gets rock hard. Which is probably what's happened already. Now, sometimes this works really well, and sometimes it doesn't. Well, I'd give it 7 out of 10. Well, you can see that a person gets rid of probably 75% of the glue. Well, maybe not quite that much. But at least it's that much less that's going to be gumming up the sandpaper on the drum sander. Now what I'm planning to do is make a couple of rails that'll go along the sides. That way I'm not going to get snipe from the drum sander on the last 3 inches here of the board. And my scrap lumber, it's not 3/4 of an inch thick. This is 3/4. This is probably a 1/16 of an inch less. This is just a fence board. So I got to run this edge through the jointer here and make it nice and straight. Right now it's kind of like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip those pieces the same as this is thick and just a little bit bigger. Okay, I should be able to get a couple of rails out of that. No problem. Well, this video is 10 minutes long already, so I guess I better cut it off. And tomorrow I'll figure out how to fasten these rails to that board,
and run it through the drum sander. Thanks for watching.